The United States has deployed a second aircraft carrier to the Mediterranean to deter hostile actions against Israel or any efforts toward widening this war, as residents of Gaza City fled south to escape an expected Israeli ground attack in response to a murderous rampage by Hamas last weekend that left at least 1,300 people dead. The U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said late on Saturday that the presence of the USS Eisenhower and its affiliated warships in the eastern Mediterranean signaled Washington's ironclad commitment to Israel's security and our resolve to deter any state or non-state actor seeking to escalate this war. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned against a new front on the Israel-Lebanon frontier and added, "We can't rule out that Iran would choose to get directly engaged some way. We have to prepare for every possible contingency." Iran is a longtime backer of Hamas and also Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has exchanged fire with Israel over the past few days. That is a risk, and that's a risk that we have been mindful of since the start. It's why the president moved so rapidly and decisively to get an aircraft carrier into the eastern Mediterranean. A very clear message to any state or any actor that would seek to exploit this situation. The Iranian foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdollahian, was quoted by the semi-official Fars news agency on Sunday as saying, "The hands of all parties in the region are on the trigger if Israel does not end its aggressions." The Palestinian Health Ministry said 2,670 people had been killed and more than 9,600 wounded in Gaza, surpassing in 1 week the numbers killed by Israeli bombardments over a period of 6 weeks in 2014. "The situation is unprecedented. I'm not even going to call it a humanitarian crisis. It's one of humanitarian collapse," said an international aid worker based in Gaza, who said they wanted to sound the alarm but asked not to be named. Rescuers checked the rubble of a house in Rafah destroyed by an Israeli airstrike view from Gaza. "I can't leave. It's horrific that I have to choose between my life and my home," the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, reiterated calls for civilians to move south of the Gaza River, demanding the displacement of an estimated 1.1 million people. The Israeli military said hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had headed south so far, and that a third road had been identified as a safe route on Sunday. Some who had fled south of the Gaza River described such poor conditions that they knew others who had gone back to Gaza City. "The overcrowding is really bad. It's common for people to be sleeping 20 or 30 to a room. The humanitarian needs are dire," said the aid worker. "The most shattering thing about this is that we are just at the beginning, and the situation is about to get a lot worse." In Gaza City, Mahmoud Shalabi, a humanitarian coordinator with medical aid for Palestinians, said the situation was untenable. Last night, half of it was calm for the first time, and the other half was really violent and severe. Again, all places across the Gaza Strip were hit hard. Houses were destroyed on top of families sleeping inside, he said. "I'm talking about everywhere in Gaza. Again, we are debunking the myth of this safe place in the southern part of Gaza. Palestinians are still trying to get basic commodities, like food," he said, describing how he had been unable to find bread for his family at the few bakeries that have remained open. Even the big supermarkets aren't open, because according to the suppliers who still have some quantities of food, they are afraid of moving their trucks to distribute to any of the shops in the neighborhood. They're asking supermarket owners to go there and get whatever they can for their shops, he said. Despite the bombardments and growing fears of a ground invasion, some said they were reluctant to move south, fearing they would never be able to return to their homes. According to the UN, on at least 3 separate occasions in the last 48 hours, fleeing civilians have been hit by rocket fire, leaving some also to fear they will be killed if they try to move south. The world body has said Israel's order to evacuate the northern end of the territory is logistically impossible in a short period of time. In Israel, orders were given on Sunday to completely evacuate the town of Sderot, less than a mile from Gaza, by nightfall. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, convened the first meeting of Israel's expanded emergency cabinet at a military headquarters in Tel Aviv for the first time on Sunday. The Unity War Cabinet includes the opposition lawmaker, retired Army General and former Deputy Prime Minister Benny Gantz and the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Hamas thought we would be demolished. It is we who will demolish Hamas, Netanyahu said.